Hi guys, today we're here to talk about why do people subconsciously compete against each other and why and how we can...
As a matter of fact, you know what?
As a matter of fact, I'd rather not.
Attention!
Dude, the skit is supposed to be in the second part of the video, not the first. I told you. Jeez. So we're gonna delve into why people always seem to be so competitive all the time, like constantly comparing themselves to others, and how you can uphold your own self-esteem without having to belittle other people. With that being said, I'd like to start with a little story. When I was in junior high school, I didn't have good grades, so I wasn't going to any prestigious high school and I was placed in a lower performing class. So, it kind of goes without saying, most of the teachers didn't have high hopes for us. But I wasn't a bad student, I was just bad at studying. Like, I tried hard, but it just didn't work out for me. But still, I was at the top of my high school class and I was even appointed as class leader. Just imagine leading a class of troublemaking students. It was actually quite fun. Like, my classmates would look after me, so I had no trouble in high school. No one dared to pick on me. I have to say, I had a pretty happy freshman year, and my overall school ranking was around the 20th or 30th mark, which was okay. So the second year, I was promoted to the academically better performing class, and everybody was nice, we got along, but it was way more competitive, and I was always stuck around the middle of the class. I didn't feel special anymore, I felt less significant in this class. And the last 2 years of high school were kind of tough. The funny thing was my grades never really dropped. I was just placed in a class where I was relatively the lower performing one, whereas in my freshman year, I was always at the top of my class. It seems to be that we're constantly seeking to be in a higher status. Being in a higher status seems to make you feel happier, lighter in your footsteps, while being in a lower status seems to take the wind out of your sails. It makes you feel less confident. Why is it that we're always nervous when we're talking to someone above us, like your boss or your idol?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Why is it that deep down inside in your gut, when we're better off than other people, you feel good? Admit it. And what if I told you that's just how the brain is wired? Hard truth, eh? Let's jump into the science of it.
Yes, science!
Inside the book Your Brain at Work, the author David Rock quotes and mentions a ton of scientific facts concerning social interactions and brain functions. The brain, quote unquote, has an overarching organizing principle, which is to classify the world around you into things that will either hurt you or help you stay alive. Basically, everything you do in life is based on your brain's determination to minimize danger or maximize reward. When a threat response is triggered, it helps pump blood, oxygen, adrenaline into your system, which makes you physically stronger, more alert, and swifter to react. But there is a downside to this. When you're in a fight or flight condition, it's harder to think clearly. When your limbic system, the emotional brain, is aroused, all the resources rush into that district of the brain. And as a result, the trade-off is the rational brain, your prefrontal cortex, receives fewer resources. So in plain words, you are temporarily physically stronger. That doesn't seem strong, I know, just try to imagine. But also at the same time, you become mentally dumber.
I'm Veronica Corningstone.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. Go f yourself, San Diego.
Another fun fact is that threat responses come in stronger and last longer than reward responses. Just think of the last time you heard the ice cream truck drive by. Did you really jump out of your chair, rush out the door just to get a scoop? Maybe. Maybe you're still that little kid inside. Who knows? But now imagine a spider just fell on your face. So you get the idea. Now, when we see other people, what's going on in the brain is that it's classifying whether him or her is a threat or reward, namely friend or foe. Is that someone you would walk up to when you see him in the streets, or would you shy away from? Your brain is automatically doing that for you without you even noticing. When you see, or should I say when your brain sees someone as a friend, well, you use similar circuits in the brain that you use for thinking of your own experiences to interact with him or her. So studies show that people are more empathetic to people they view as friends. While on the other hand, not so much. For a perceived foe, people feel less empathy. Perceiving someone as a foe generates a threat response, and so when you interact with him or her, well, you're not as sharp as you would be. For instance, in most cases, when your boss calls you into his office, now that's an instant threat. So now, while you're standing there, you're juggling with two concepts simultaneously: how to deal with a foe and how to deal with work. And the brain doesn't do so well at multitasking, so we stutter, we space off, we get nervous. Luckily, this subconsciously decided friend-foe relationship is prone to change. A smile, a handshake, discussing something in common can swiftly change your mind. David Rock presented a model called SCARF. SCARF includes the 5 major social experience domains that the brain treats as survival issues, which are respectively status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. In this video, we're gonna focus on status. The brain not only classifies people into friends or foes, it also ranks them. What's worth noting is there is no universal scale for this process of determining relative status. The criteria can be very different among individuals. It could be anything from, but not limited to, age, physique, finances, intelligence, character, who has the hotter wife, etc., things like that. All in all, without you even noticing, the brain is sizing people up and then bluntly telling you where you fit in. I hate my brain now. So people go to lengths to do all sorts of things just to make themselves feel more relevant. Saying something funny at a party, dressing up in name brands, having the latest video game console, taking selfies with big name celebrities. Those things to different people help with elevating status. On the flip side, to avoid status going down, people could tend to stay away from activities they're not confident in, especially when they're in front of other people because they don't want to look bad. They could, or rather we could, refrain from trying new things or taking on challenges because we don't want to be wrong, because being wrong jeopardizes status. It's a constant subconscious battle for status. And as you might have thought by now, this is ruthless, because there's always going to be a loser in this war. When someone goes up, someone else has to come down. It's a zero-sum game. So here's what you can do about it, especially if you're in a higher status.
I have the high ground!
And you want to reduce people's subliminal hostility, or if you want to elevate yourself without having to compare yourself to other people.
Tell me how!
Have you ever heard of the old saying, treat the tiger like a cat and the cat like a tiger? No? Well, never mind. There's a two-way strategy. You can either lower your own relative status, or you could boost other people's status. When you have the high ground, it's always tension relieving to show your own vulnerability. Hey, you know, I've been there before. I used to have no clue too. I know how you feel. Being humble, genuine, and transparent is a great way to relate and to show that you're not a threat. For example, everyone, I know as your pastor you all look up to me, and that you expect me to have all the answers to all your problems. But I too have a confession to make, and that is, I am just as human as you are. And as any human would, I have sins too. Like last night, I watched porridge making videos for 3 hours, when I should have been preparing for today's sermon. I mastered the art of cooking. When I should have been using that time to master my biblical knowledge. I am ashamed to call myself your pastor. And so from this very moment on, I announce that I stepped down. And that I've opened a new restaurant 2 blocks down the street. And everything's 20% off today, so remember to drop by. Okay, that kind of drifted off topic, but you get the idea. On the other hand, giving positive feedback is rather constructive in lifting other people, showing recognition, appreciation, and furthermore, doing it in public. Praising people in front of everyone else, that has got to have the utmost effect. That's right. Hey David, just want to let you know last week's presentation, hell of a job. You knocked it out of the ballpark.
Why, thank you, Tim.
You know what I'm doing here? I saw this in this guy's YouTube video. I'm trying to elevate your status. Well, if that's the case, you shouldn't be. You're too humble. Now that's your problem. You're too humble. But I like that. As a matter of fact, you know what? As a matter of fact, I'd rather not.
Attention! Attention, everybody. I would like to announce David, exceptional. Exceptional performance.
And even though David may have tiny feet,
I don't have tiny feet.
but I expect each and every one of you to follow in his tiny baby footsteps. David, come up here and say something.
Can I not?
That could have been done way better. Now, as smart as you are, you probably figured out the problem. But what about me? While I'm lifting other people, ain't my relative status being compromised? Is there a way I can elevate myself without having to compete with other people? Yes, there is, and that's to compete against yourself. Improving your soccer shooting skills, getting in better shape, acquiring knowledge, or building better habits. It really gets your brain into thinking, hey, I'm beating this other dude. This dude called your former self. This is probably the healthiest and most constructive way to raise your self-esteem. Feeling better about yourself, feeling a rise in status by actually improving yourself. So why do we subconsciously compete against each other? Well, it's pretty much just the way the brain works. But knowing how the brain works in terms of determining status helps us leverage that knowledge to foster positive change. How to turn foes into friends, how to diffuse tense interpersonal situations, and how we can actually build ourselves without having to undermine others. I hope this episode does you well. Love you all. God bless you all. Peace.